A lot of people ask me, how do you know if a house is good or not? And I can tell you, when I go inspect the house, I can tell you within 5 minutes if the house is even worthwhile. And so basically, I'm going to explain what you guys should look for within 5 minutes to decide if the house is a piece of junk or if it's not. Okay, why waste time spending a lot of time going through the whole house when you could just spend 5 minutes and go on to the next house? So let's stay till the end, because in the end, I'm going to give you a bonus thing that you should do. So basically, say if I was buying a house, one of the first things I would do before I even go to the house is I would go to the FEMA website and see if it's in a flood zone. I'm not saying don't buy a house that's in a flood zone, but if I know it's in a flood zone, I'm going to find out what the insurance is going to be on the house before I even go to the house. Because the insurance might be stupidly expensive, especially here in Florida. So there, you just saved a lot of time. You don't even have to drive there. All right, so now I'm heading to the house, okay? One of the first things I'm going to do while I'm heading to the house is get a feel of the neighborhood, okay? The neighborhood vibe. What's the vibe in the house, you know? Do neighbors' homes look cared for? Or is there like garbage in the front of the yards and everything? Is there noise? Is there traffic? Is there nearby factories that, you know, you smell like a sewage plant or whatever? I'm going to check all that out before I even make it up to the house. And I'm not going to go straight to the house. I would just drive around the neighborhood a little bit and check out the houses, see what kind of condition they are. I really would want a really good vibe of the neighborhood before I even pulled into the driveway of the house. All right, so let's just say the vibe is good. You like it, okay? And you already know it has enough bedrooms that you want and bathrooms and the size yard because you read that off the MLS. All right, so when I pull into the driveway, the first thing I'm going to do is curb appeal. Is it good curb appeal? Okay, is the lawn maintained? Does the exterior paint look fresh or faded? Are there cracks in the driveway or walkway? Okay, that's one of the first things I look at. And what I look for is like if there's a big oak tree in the front of the house or the back of the house. Because let me tell you guys a little bit of story. So this guy has a big oak tree. I just did the inspection. He has a really huge oak tree in his back of his yard. And the big limb that I call widowmaker, a lot of people call it, is hanging over the house. And if during the storm, if that branch breaks, forget about it. It's going to go right through the roof. So he called the arbitrist, you know, and tried to get a permit and they're like, no, it's a live oak and you can't do nothing about it. It is what it is. So basically the oak tree has more rights than him in his house. And it's literally hanging over his house. It's like, I'm like, are you serious? It's like, yeah, I called the town. I called everybody. They denied my request to chop it down. He had a quote for $10,000 to chop down the tree. And I asked him, I said, can you appeal it? He says, no, there's no appeals. So he's like, during a hurricane, I'm afraid to stay here because if that branch breaks, it's literally over my bedroom. So I'm like, wow. So if I'm pulling into a driveway, I'm going to see if there's any big oak trees or any big trees that, you know, are going to give me a problem. But it's not just the oak trees, as like the roots from the oak trees. So we do a lot of sewer scope inspections. So especially if the house is old and it's a clay, you know, say it's a clay sewage system or whatever it is, we want to do a sewer scope. Basically, we stick a camera down there and we just videotape the whole thing to make sure the roots from the trees have not penetrated the sewer lines. Because I can tell you one thing, if the roots penetrated the sewer lines, you're talking about a lot of money to fix, especially if the intrusion into the sewer lines is underneath the foundation. Forget about it. So there, I'm in the driveway, I'm looking around, it's like, oh, a big oak tree. That's a big, big no-no, because you're not talking about like you could go take a chainsaw and cut it down yourself. There's a big, big process of doing that. All right, so there, that takes about, what, 30 seconds right there, 40 seconds to see the tree and decide how big it is. And look on the ground, look on the grass, see how far the roots are spreading out. And I guarantee you could probably see a lot of roots spreading out all over the place. Next thing I want to do is I'm just going to look up. I'm not even out of the car yet. I'm going to look at the roof. Is it sagging? Is it missing shingles? Does it look faded? Does it look cracking? Does it look old? You know, and I know a lot of you can say, well, you could replace the roof. Yes, you could replace the shingles, but you're still looking maybe, depending on the house, 15 to 25,000 on average. But is it sagging? You know, is the truss system compromised? You know, what's going on with the roof? If you see sags, like it looks like it waves, I'm like, all right, now I'm going to second guess it. Or like, should I even get out of the car? So say I do have an oak tree and say I have a bad roof. Right there, I'm looking at what? If say they allow me to cut down the oak tree, you could be looking at $25,000 right there. All right, so I get out of the car. And then I'm saying to myself, all right, let me look at the gutters. I'm going to walk around the outside of the house. I'm a big believer in this. It's so important to inspect the outside because whatever happens outside will eventually get inside. That's my theory. Okay, so I go there and I check out the gutters and make sure that they're sloped good, make sure that there's no water built up around the house. But I'm looking at the grading of the property. Like, so I'm going to look at worst case scenarios. There's going to be a big, big storm coming and rain is going to come pouring in, and I want all the rain to come off that roof, hit the ground, and just go away from the home, okay? But if I go to the backyard and slope towards the house, or, you know, this house has what's called a zero lot line. Basically, the two houses next to each other are like 8 feet apart. That's the drainage system there a lot of times, and you can't even walk in there when it rains a lot. I'm going to look at the drainage of the house, make sure that the grading's correct and pushes water away from the foundation. That could be very expensive to fix. And if it's not like that, basically, I would probably walk away from the house. I think grading is super important. So now I'm walking around the house, and what am I looking for? I'm looking for foundation cracks. I'm looking all through the foundation, okay? I'm making sure there's no cracking or anything, especially, you know, horizontal cracking on the corners and everything. Because one of the other things I would check out probably is, you know, the number of sinkholes around the neighborhood. And listen, I understand that one house here, one house there could have a sinkhole, and this house doesn't have any, may never have any. Or I also understand that they might just be depressions and people got scared and they called it a sinkhole and it wasn't really a sinkhole. But if there was a lot of foundations, you know, settlement issues in that neighborhood, I would think twice about buying the house too. So I'm walking around the house and I'm making sure that there's no major cracks, you know, and I want to make sure that they didn't just put new vinyl up or something, because you can't see underneath the vinyl. Are they trying to cover something up? But just walk around the house really, really slowly, clockwise or counterclockwise, and walk around the other direction. Because believe it or not, walking both directions, you see things you didn't see on the first pass. Now, I'm gonna look at the windows. I'm gonna look at the window frames. Are they made out of wood? Are they made out of vinyl? Are they made out of aluminum? You know, are they degraded? Are they rotten? Are they like single pane windows? You know, because I'll tell you one thing, you try to replace windows in a house, it costs a lot of money. I got a quote for 3 sliders, and I don't even know the exact amount of windows, but they were quoting me because I wanted impact windows because I'm in the wind zone there. They wanted like 65, 70,000. So if I'm walking to a house and I'm looking at the windows and the windows are just junk and they're gonna have to be replaced right away, you're looking at probably 40, 50 grand if you're in a wind zone, you know? So, okay, right now you're looking at a house and say you're paying 300, just automatically add another 50,000 because you really don't want junky windows. And if you say, oh, I could live with them for a little while, maybe you could, but long term you won't, because you want to get ones that are energy efficient, you want ones that are hurricane impact if you're in a wind zone. There's a lot of reasons. You might have water going in and rotting inside the walls where you don't see, because a lot of times when those windows are, you know, all rotten all around there, water's getting in. So now we haven't even gone inside the house. So now, believe it or not, we're talking about maybe 3 minutes total okay, inspecting the outside, just walking around counterclockwise the other way. Now I'm going inside the house, okay? Now I'm looking at the hardware, I'm looking at the front door. Is it even? Is it decrepit? Does it open easily? Does it close? So I'll open the door and I'll close the door. Is it, then when I go inside and I close the door, I'm gonna turn around and look at the door. Do I see sunlight coming in? You know, I'm gonna see what kind of condition the door is in. And then, because if the door is in crappy condition, or it's not leveled, or it's not closing properly, you know, you might have issues, you know, on the foundation. Who knows? So I would look at the door. Now that I'm inside the house, okay, and I'm looking at the door, I want to know if I'm smelling any odors, okay, like moldy smell. You know, I want to make sure, like, I would walk around the house and I actually, a smell, especially if it's been empty for a long time. You know, say they weren't running the air conditioner here in Florida. Believe it or not, the smells tells you a lot about a house. You know, moldy, musty, cigarette could point hidden issues. You know, say you go into a house and it's overloaded with Febreze, you know, it could be a red flag. So, you know, when you're going to go check out a house, a listing, and you see all those plug-ins all over the place, and the realtor plugged in like 30 of them in a house. Okay, they're not doing that to make the house. Most of the time they're doing it because the house had a foul odor, so they want to cover up that odor, you know. But if there is an odor there, I would want to know exactly what is causing that odor. Do me a favor, if you like this kind of content, consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. It's greatly appreciated, and a lot of work goes into these videos. All right, now I'm inside the house. I'm walking around and I'm doing two things when I'm walking around. One is I'm looking at the ceilings and the corners, okay? So I want to see if there's any cracking, any signal of past leaks. I'm looking for water stains. But at the same time, as I'm walking around, and I'm walking everywhere. Like if I go into a bedroom, I'm not walking directly in one line. I'm walking the perimeter of the bedroom. Then I'm walking in the middle of the bedroom. Does it feel solid? Is it squeaks? Is there any soft spots? You know, is it creaking? So when you go into these rooms, literally walk all over the room. Walk into the closet, okay? Because that, and look, it usually water stains. You know, if you go into the bedroom closets or anything, just look up into the corner, see if there's any leaks. Because sometimes if they don't take care of the outside, like the gutters back up, water's gonna go into the closets and it's gonna cause staining. So just walk all over the house. It won't take a long time on the average house. Okay, big one. All right, so next thing I would do is I would go right to the electrical panel. You notice I'm not saying, hey, check out the kitchen or check out the bathrooms. Don't worry about that. If it's a flip home, that's the first thing that the flippers do. They fix up the kitchen and the bathrooms and they make them look beautiful. But I would be going right to the electrical panel and I would look at it. And I would look at it to see if it appears old. You know, I would look at the brands too, see if it's a Federal Pacific, a Zinsco, you know, some Sylvania panels. If you open it up and it looks like a little Christmas tree with different color breakers, you know, it's probably past its life and it needs to be replaced. So consider that. I've seen some panels go for as little as $1,600, but some of them go towards $2,500. At the same time, when I'm walking around the house before and going into the rooms, if it's an older house, I would be looking at the outlets and make sure there's no two-prong outlets. Because if there's two-prong outlets, you might have grounding issues in that house too. So if you have an old panel and two-prong outlets because it's an older house, that could be an indication of electrical problems, and you need an electrician to go in there. And believe me, to wire a whole house all over again, especially if it has cloth wiring, you're talking about thousands of dollars. So now I'm probably going to walk into the garage to see if the air handler is there. You know, the condenser is outside, but when I was walking around the outside of the house, I was looking at the condenser and I'm like, all right, does it look rusted? You know, how old is it? Does it look faded? Is it making a noise? Is there little jumper wires on top of the, you know, on top of the fan? And then what I do is I look at the data plates, and usually the first two, you look at the serial number, and the first two digits or the third and fourth digit is the year of the air conditioner. So I look at that, see how old the air conditioner is. If it's past 10 years, I'm automatically assuming that it's going to pass its lifetime expectancy. So now I'm adding up that in my head that, oh, this thing is going to need a new air conditioner. Then if I find the air handler, if it wasn't up in the attic, it was easy to get to, I would take a look at it and see if there's any black spots on there or any, corrosion. Just look at what the condition is. And believe it or not, everything that we talked about so far is within 5 minutes I do it. Within 5 minutes. Okay, I do it a lot, so for me it would be 5 minutes. Maybe for you doing it, it'll be 10 minutes, but still, it'll save you a lot of money. Hiring a home inspector is a great idea, but if you're not sure if you even want this house, just follow these steps. So now I would go, and if I'm passing a bathroom, I would turn on the faucet, see what the water pressure is. As I'm running the water, I just open up the cabinet door, see if there's any mold spots or any leaking of water or anything. Then I would go to the kitchen, turn on the water there to see if there's how the water pressure is, look underneath to see what the plumbing looks like. Is it corroded? Is it leaking? Just overall, it's the shutoff valves there, so that takes 2 seconds to see, just run it over there. Then what I would do is, if there is attic, okay, like me, I carry ladders, so it's easy for me to get up to the attic, but maybe there's a pull down in a garage or something. I would pull it down and just peek up in there, just see what it's like. You can see what kind of, if it's an older home, you'll see if there's cloth wiring, open junction boxes. I would take a look at all that stuff, Here is the bonus I was talking about, okay? The one thing I would definitely do, okay, especially here in Florida, is I would want to buy a block home, okay? I would not want to buy a wood frame house, especially an older one, okay? Because then if you're buying a wood frame house, I'm not saying it's bad, but now, you want to get what's called a WDO, wood destroying organism inspection, Have a termite guy come in and make sure that there's no termites in the house. And the easiest way to tell if the house is block or wood, look at the windows, okay? And if the windows are flush with the walls, it's probably wood. If the windows are a little bit in, okay, it's probably block. Okay, that's like a general rule. Is it all the time? No. If it's a 2-floor house, sometimes the first floor is block and the second floor is wood. If it's a stilt house, it's wood, all right? But it's off the ground anyways. So you could do all that stuff within 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And it'll save you a lot of money, and it's easy to do. And if you have any questions, I put all my contact information below. Just send me the address of the property. I'll bring it up on MLS or Zillow or whatever, and I'll take a look at it, and I'll give you my feedback. So that's pretty much it for today's video. So do me a favor, consider subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and I'm here for you. If you guys need anything, just contact me below, and we'll talk to you next one. Thank you, and watch this video over here. I picked it out just for you. I don't know if it's going to be here or here, but it's a good video. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.